A very warm welcome to you. This is Frontline. Today we have Dr. Danladi Bako, OON. He was an NTA staff from 1978 to 1999 and retired as an assistant director. He was former Director General, National Broadcasting Commission, 1999 to 2002, and of course, a former Commissioner for Information, Sokoto State. He is Kobonam Sokoto. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here. First of all, I'm delighted. NTA Benin has always been a repository of quality programming and a house for professionals. And a lot of what I've seen, especially with most of the crew and staff of the News and Programs Department, the history that comes with NTA Benin has manifested in my presence here in terms of quality transmission, production, and output. I want to congratulate the management and staff and all of you for doing a good job, your contributions to the network, your contributions to the local television environment.
Let me respond on behalf of the management as I am now sitting close to you. Thank you so much. You practiced journalism for a long time. So let's just finish the aspects of journalism. What would be your counsel to journalists with the new demand in the new media?
Well, let me take both of them. I'll take what is the traditional media, radio and TV and newspaper. A lot of what has happened in the last 30, 40 years has been a contribution of the media. Media raised the bar in making sure the military left office and left power and civilians took over. Remember all the days of the military coups, the media was in the forefront of ensuring that we return to democracy. And at that time there was no social media. So the media must be commended for championing the return to democracy so we all can, pat ourselves on the back. All of what we did during June 12, etc., to get us to these days of democracy. And one of the major tenets of broadcasting and journalism is agenda setting. So after the battle of getting us to democracy, we are now looking at how do we ensure that democracy is sustained and that there are no threats to those democracy. We must hold those in office accountable. And I must say that relatively, the media has done very well in all these aspects. The media has propagated a kind of synergy where people now worry about what the media thinks about them. And people now see the need to get to the media, to get to the people. There's no way you can get to 200 million Nigerians without the media. Whatever you're doing, even if it's a naming ceremony of your daughter or you're running for election or whatever you're doing, you need the media. And so it's a very important part of the superstructure of society and communication. And I think so far so good. I'm proud to be part of this arrangement. I covered so many assignments that put my job at risk, my life at risk. And in fact, not just that, I tried as much as possible to be a pace setter. Some of the things I did still remain some of the major landmarks of Nigerian television. When I created and I was doing Morning Ride in 1988, I put all the governors that I could put on air, I put them to question. I asked about their performance, I challenged them. Some of those occasions, I'll finish an edition of Morning Ride and the president, the head of state at that time, President Babangida, will call me and say, thank you for grilling my governor.
Because he actually needed that.
He needed that.
He needed that to get feedback.
There was a day we talked about how you use 30 million naira to fence Bar Beach. I put the governor on air and really drilled him. There was another governor that spent 25 million naira to clear water hyacinth in the Bokoda River. And I did all my stories, and the head of state at that time, General Babangida, was very happy that the things he thought he didn't know, and in fact the things they were hiding from him, I made all those scoops and brought them out. So as I said, it's a landmark, position for us in the media now. But we also need to be very careful about what we do in terms of allowing people to disunite this country. Part of the things we have not done effectively is to assist in national unity. One of the tenets of NTA is to be able to create national unity, protect national interests, and to forge development and harmony amongst all the tribes of Nigeria. Those are one of the things we were trained as young reporters and young program makers in NTA. So far, so good. Some other stations that are commercial are not too interested in all those things. They just want what can sell. And so there's a risk there. We must call their attention to it. In terms of social media, the social media is not something that you, at the point at which it started, the whole world did not participate in ensuring that a lot of regulation was put in place before the advent of social media. So this spate of growth of social media outgrew the regulatory function. So you find a Twitter and a Facebook cautioning readers and Twitter users that this Donald Trump statement is flagged. We're flagging it to say this matters. Yes, yeah. So don't all believe it. You must cross-check. So we're having to cross-check so many of those things until we get proper regulatory framework where Facebook, Twitter, and all the platforms can self-regulate from themselves. There are parts of social media now where Facebook will not accept certain adverts, so will not accept certain things that have to do with violence. They would edit them before you go on air. So we're getting to that. So we're in a transition, and I do hope that it produces good results. But you can see, having been Director General of NBC, once upon a time, I'm sure when you were young, you wait in the morning to see color bars, 4:30, so there was no TV, there was no TV, you wait for color bars, then Sesame Street, then, then by 11 o'clock, you go to bed. Yeah. Today, courtesy of NBC, which I was the Director General, we just don't have, from no station owned by private to now we're talking about 850 radio and TV stations in the country. So the variety is there, and it has provided jobs. It has provided democratization of voices. People are not, way back, a governor can say, NTA, block out this campaign. And that's the end. You don't hear about the other party.
But there are options now.
There are endless options now.
And they are all competing, in the market.
Absolutely.
All right. So, what are the critical roles the media should play in the current, let's take the current situation now, the pandemic.
The pandemic has been well handled by the media, especially the private media. They did more than I actually expected of them, considering that they're not being paid. A lot of them do 2 hours a day of COVID-19 review or update. All of them, all the big channels, all of them, whether it's channels or AIT or TVC, and they report every night at 11:30 the update of the figures. And they do they cover all the presidential task force, whatever, all the networks do that. And I'm quite delighted. I'm happy for them. And I'm happy that it is giving us a wider knowledge of way back. There have been pandemics in this country. Once upon a time, malaria killed so many more people. Cholera did, measles did, chickenpox did. But we didn't have the media to do all of that work. Today, with all of what we've done, the sensitization and advocacy by the media, we have just 1,000 and about 100 deaths. 1,100 deaths. Malaria has killed more people. Cholera has killed more people. Maternal mortality has produced more deaths than that. So, and I think it has to do with the advocacy, the sensitization, the behavior change, and how to handle your total package in terms of what to do with masks, face masks. And I'll just show you sensitization. I have my face mask, yes. But because it's better on air to sound clear and clean, I don't want anything that would impede my voice level. Yeah. So I just nicely put my face mask in that is to tell you that we're handy. All, yes, it's handy. Yeah. It tells you that we're all now aware that there is COVID-19, and these are the ways to prevent it. The business of making us know about COVID-19 is government and the levels of media, but understanding what its implications are and how to handle it and how to prevent infection are the things that the levels of media at the level of NTA Benin will carry down, because it's NTA Benin. NTA headquarters will not transmit COVID-19 materials in Oromi, Ishan, Agenebode. They won't go to the local dialects. But NTA Benin has the privilege of being able to meet and connect with everybody that is in Warake, Uzwagbe, Igweben, Iruekben, Akoko Edo, Ibilo, everywhere.
Okay, so if you had to rate the conventional media, in comparison with the new media,
yeah,
what would be your assessment?
Let me tell you what it takes to do the new media. You need a good handset, you need data, and you must have enough money to buy data all the time. The conventional media is on terrestrial. What you do is just go to the market, Akpakpava or somewhere, or Aduawa, and buy a TV set and put it in your house, and you're ready to go. But that will change when digitization comes. You need to just get a decoder of 1,000 naira, 1,500, and be able to. But the accessibility, as you do know, in Nigeria today, the penetration of the internet is just about 49 million people. Whereas once upon a time, as far back as 1987, NTA had 30 million people as at that time. So the number of 850 radio and TV houses that we speak about now are probably reaching about 120 million viewers. So terrestrial and the traditional TV still carries the day. Whether it's FM or radio or television or satellite or DTH or DTT, they still have the huge levels of audience.
Okay, so talking about the NBC, which you occupied a very sensitive position in the past, do you think the NBC is playing its role enough?
Nothing can be perfect, as I said earlier. Of course, there are rooms for improvement, but so far so good. Let me tell you now, Ugo Chukwuka. I was Commissioner of Information from 2011 to 2015 in Sokoto, and the radio station in Sokoto is Rima Radio. That's where I started as a reporter in 1973. And I was the commissioner, and Rima Radio was directly under me, and I traveled out of Sokoto, and at that time, it was PDP. Before 2015, it was PDP, and the movement towards APC happened around 2013 ND to 2014. As soon as APC became the political party in power in Sokoto, they denied PDP jingles. And NBC fined Rima Radio 500,000 naira for denying PDP jingles. I came back from my trip and I said, what happened? The general manager said, that's what we've been doing in the past. We do not allow opposition to have airtime, to get jingles, or even to have discussions.
It's a state station.
Yes, it's a state station, Sokoto State Station. So I warned the general manager, a lady. I said, I have been Director General of NBC. I was one of those that created the first code. I was part of it from '94. So I know. I was zonal director Maiduguri. I was main inside NBC. So, and I became Director General. So how would you tell me that you cannot take balance? There are sections of the code that tells you that you must give balance and equity and fairness and right of reply to everybody.
Okay.
I directed her to go and raise the voucher for us to pay the 500,000 naira. She raised the voucher and I gave approval for them to pay NBC 500,000 naira as sanction and fine. I was the Commissioner of Information, and the station under me breached the code, and I made sure that we paid the fine.
Some people say some stations prefer to pay that fine.
Yeah.
And they have already done what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So do you think NBC needs to be rejigged in this direction?
I was the chairman of the a review session of the last code.
Benga Arigbe is one of the many passengers who was affected by the increased ticket tariff.
And all the tests we analyzed showed that when stations were fined for transmitting materials that were
at the end of the
incendiary, seditious, or whatever, they accepted that they were
some of us
at fault, and what they just did is went back to the political party, collected the money, they had budgeted for it, and just paid. So they had done them damage. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Minister of Information and a few other stakeholders, a few other ministers and a few other high-profile politicians, not just the minister, a host of them believed that the money should be increased to 5 million. So one of the reasons why the 5 million naira fine was increased from 500,000 was because they were preparing the money and they were pre-budgeting for it. They would say, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to pay MDC off. So if we charge NTA 500,000, NTA might have to write a big memo to the DG. It doesn't come like that. But some other station that is owned by a politician will say, okay, just block out this party. I would include it in your budget. So it just makes provision for 500,000 and just pay off that fine. So I think it's not just part of what was done in this last code was to try to correct some of these things. Whether it will work or it will not work, I think it will be a deterrent. Sometimes you are preemptive. You want to create a situation where when people know, Kaduna State House of Assembly have approved that rapists should be sentenced to castration. That alone is a fear that most rapists will now get, that even if it doesn't come into law today or come into effect, the mere fact that they know that there's a law now that is being processed and waiting for the governor's signature that males that rape women, whatever, whether minors or women of any sort, should be castrated. Sometimes that's even more painful than losing your life.
Yes, seeing someone's death before he's actually killed.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's now talk politics. Your assessment of the political situation in the States. You've been an observer.
Yeah. Let me tell you that I have covered assignments in Benin since about 1982-83. So I've come in and out of Benin, and I understand that I was there here when Ambrose Ali was governor. I've seen so many military governors. When Tunde Ogbea, Jerry Husseini, a whole lot of the governors. And what we are seeing today in terms of politics, you can easily say that the system was a one-party system. Whatever happened, there was a UPN superstructure that was predominant. So the levels of division were not so much. And at that time, whatever the ruling party at that time, UPN, dictated, they followed. The opposition was weak, or there was no resistance. Then the other factor would be the Oba. People would, as soon as that happens, people will toe the line. They look for a way to find out what is the body language, the semiotics of the Oba and the council. Even if it doesn't say so, some of his lieutenants might just read and you know the direction they're going to, and so everybody complies. Today, courtesy of radio and TV, so many phone-in programs, so many more enlightenment platforms, people are a little more challenging, people are wiser, people are more independent-minded, so people can challenge people. People can challenge status quo. So you have two major parties. Way back, it used to be one party and a half. One party that is ruling party, the other half is one small party. Today, you have two major parties, so it's got to be fierce. So you can expect that fierce rivalry. Now, the problem is, why does that rivalry get into violence? NBC, NTA, all of the media has succeeded in making sure that you cut out hate speech and violent talk and verbal terrorism. You take out all of those things from the media. So people around security must ensure that the voter is protected and democracy is protected. Before we talk about what election process goes through, the media has succeeded in enlightening more people about voting, voter behavior, and all that. But I'm still worried that the number of voters that come out on an election is no more than 33%. We need to do more to get more people to come out to vote, because 33% is low in terms of voter output and voter turnout. What is the cause of that? Violence, intimidation. People are scared that they might not come out, or they might not like the two candidates. They'll be asking, where are the good candidates? So many factors are responsible for that. So we in the media must ensure that we try to create the positives that would make people come out, make them realize that if they don't come out, they have no business complaining that this candidate or this governor did not do well because they didn't participate in the process. They will ask you that, oh, we didn't go because we know that our votes will not count. There's rigging all the time. They have decided who's going to be governor. It's our duty in the media to convince them that no, these votes are going to begin to count gradually. And we must find creative ways of letting the public know until the media sensitizes everybody enough. The media literally pushed INEC to accept that they must add technology. And they are adding technology gradually, but it's slow. But the media must continue to make sure that elections are properly conducted, technology is used so that we can have transparency. The moment we have transparency and people have confidence in the electoral process, they will come out to vote. So very key.
All right.
Here I must seize the opportunity to commend the Oba of Benin, Oba Eware II, calling them to the palace and telling them who they are and where they fit into the superstructure is extremely important. And having done that, I think now everybody has realized that, hey, power is given to you on loan. Even our lives are given to us by God on loan. So power, maximum you'll do is 8 years. Power is given to you on loan. And as former President Jonathan said, nobody's blood is worth being spilled because of his ambition. Our people, in terms of the party political process and campaigns, must learn to realize that power comes from God. They must learn to realize that whatever they do, if they're not ordained to, we've seen people win elections and get sworn in and die. We've seen things like that. We've seen people die in power. We've seen so many things like that. What is the guarantee that even if you kill so many people, you win the election, that you can't wake, next morning you might not even wake up from your bed? So I think that it's important.
Thank you so much, Dr. Danladi Bako.
Thank
you. For sharing your thoughts with
all those that are in NTA in Benin and on the network service as well, and the management at the headquarters level for putting all of you on your toes and demanding more from you. I can only wish all of you success. And when NTA is in your blood,
it runs.
It runs. So I feel at home.
Yes.
I'm just back at home here in NTA Benin.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for the compliments.
Thank you.
Dr. Danladi Bako was the former Director General, National Broadcasting Commission, and of course, former Commissioner for Information, Sokoto State. And as it's on this edition of Frontline, thank you so much for watching.